Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents The Pornification of America, How Raunch Culture is Ruining Our Society, by Bernadette Barton. Narrated by Francine Waverly. Publisher's Note: in this audio edition, you will hear references to figures present in the print and ebook formats of the book. Introduction. Welcome to Raunch Culture, USA. In December 2016, President-elect Donald Trump named Andrew Puzder, CEO of the fast food restaurants Carl's Jr. and Hardee's, as his nominee for Labor Secretary. Puzder is the mastermind responsible for branding the burger chains with advertisements of sexy women, essentially making out with food. You may have seen the Carl's Jr. commercial of Kim Kardashian eating a salad with her fingers on a bed, letting creamy dressing drip into her cleavage. In a voiceover, she says, "While the best things in life are messy, it's fun to get clean," and then sinks, naked, into a bubble bath. As she casts a seductive look over her bare shoulder in the tub, a male voiceover growls, "Who said salads can't be hot?" Or you've seen the Super Bowl ad of Kate Upton in a car at a drive-in movie, eating a burger that makes her so hot, she begins crawling over the seats, stripping off her clothing, practically masturbating in a frenzy of sweaty, sexual excitement, presumably induced by the pleasure of eating the sandwich. The male voiceover comments, "Introducing the classic patty melt with a spicy twist." Perhaps you've watched the Carl's Jr. three-way burger advertisement, where blonde women strut around a kitchen in white bikinis, reminiscent of their underwear, while wielding sharp knives. The name three-way burger is, of course, a play on a menage a trois. In the advertisement, three thin white women with long blonde hair and big breasts cook bacon and feed it to one another provocatively. Figure I.1 shows an image from the opening of the commercial. Puzder defended his pornified artistic choices, saying, "I like beautiful women eating burgers in bikinis. I think it's very American. I used to hear, brands take on the personality of the CEO, and I rarely thought that was true, but I think this one, in this case, it kinda did take on my personality." Apparently, Puzder also imagined that his personality brand of busty white women in bikinis best represented him in a prominent government role. He requested that members of the media use the image seen in Figure I.2, a young, thin blonde white woman with large breasts, wearing an American flag bikini holding a burger, when writing about his nomination to serve as Labor Secretary. The primary responsibility of the U.S. Labor Secretary is to oversee workplace laws. Consider what this image says about Puzder's vision of the American workforce. Welcome to Raunch culture in the 2020s, when the United States has devolved into a hustler fantasy. Naked and half-naked pictures of girls and women litter every screen, billboard, and bus. Pole dancing studios keep women fit, while men airdrop their dick pics to female passengers on buses, planes, and trains. Christian pastors compliment their hot wives from the pulpit, and we have whole television programs devoted to the girlfriend experience, a specialized form of prostitution. People are having sex before they date, and women make their own personal porn to share on social media. Rape and pedophile jokes are commonplace, and those who don't like them are considered prudish. Instagram users measure their self-worth by chili pepper emojis that indicate they are hot and sexy. There are so many topless actresses on the cable series Game of Thrones. Viewers talk about how empowering it is to see small breasts for a change. Hordes of young women prefer the quasi-sex work of being a sugar baby to dating. College parties have costume themes, like CEOs and office hoes. Internet porn drives trends in programming, advertising, and social media, not to mention the technological development of the web. The First Lady modeled nude, and the leader of the free world bragged about grabbing women by the pussy. How did we end up living in a cultural scene that might have featured in a pulp story from the 1950s, written by a horny science fiction geek, I wonder? And how come so few people even notice? In The Pornification of America, I answer these questions, explaining what raunch culture is and why it matters. By doing so, I hope to deprogram its conditioning in your subconscious and create some mental space to imagine alternatives. In short, raunch culture matters because it is sexist, not because it is sexy. It sets expectations that women dress provocatively and appear always up for sex, while encouraging everyone to sexually objectify women. We see raunch culture everywhere in our porn nation. It's on our phones, in the mall, in magazines, movies, and television, in music lyrics and videos, in comedy material, on billboards, bus advertisements and bumper stickers, on t-shirts, in video games and comic books, in hookup culture, at parties and nightclubs, and in conversations. Raunch culture equals the pornification of everything. Valerie is 21 and biracial, Latinx, and white, and it takes her less than 1 minute to scroll through her Twitter feed before she encounters a picture of a woman's breasts, advertising celebs who got breast implants on socialshark.com. We are sitting at my dining room table with her close friend Elizabeth, who is white and 20, as I interview both young women about their thoughts on raunch culture. Elizabeth explained, "In the middle of everyone talking, there will be an advertisement for something sexual like, look at this nip slip, or check out this teenager in her prom picture." Like Valerie and Elizabeth, perhaps you have also noticed a creeping bombardment of provocative, half-naked women in advertisements, social media feeds, and television programming, and wondered, what is going on? Have you fended off any porn bots? What do you think about the new college craze of Yeti butting, in which young women model in thongs on Yeti coolers, as you can see in Figure I.3? If you shop for girls' or women's clothing, tops are tighter and skirts are shorter in comparison to clothing norms of the 1970s and 1980s. Try entering a Halloween Express store and finding a costume for a girl or woman that isn't sexy nurse, sexy cat, or sexy anything. Perhaps you've seen kindergartners twerking, or puzzled over the sexual violence portrayed in shows like American Horror Story. This is the pornogrification of the culture, what it looks like when the attitudes, behaviors, and accoutrements once reserved for the sex industry filter into the mainstream. For example, consider the following products, activities, and body modifications now commonly marketed: twerking, fake nails, breast implants, push-up bras, long dyed hair, smoky eye makeup, plump lips, Brazilian waxes, platform stiletto shoes, or stripper shoes, pole dancing classes for exercise, thongs, and hairless bodies. Porn Nation tells citizens a sexy girl has the body of a porn star and knows how to do an epic lap dance for her guy, while offering her a range of products and services to alter her physical self. Researchers observed a trend toward pornification in the mid-1990s, a period when media outlets gradually started to represent women as not only impossibly beautiful, but also sexy and DTF, down to fuck. Women had long contended with the beauty myth, influencing many to unfavorably compare themselves with models and actresses, but we were not routinely exhorted to look slutty and release our inner porn star until the early 2000s. Early examples of the beginning of raunch culture include pornography star Tracy Lords in a small recurring role in the 1994 to 95 season of the immensely popular family series Roseanne. In 1996, the film Barb Wire, starring Playboy model Pamela Anderson, was released. And in 1997, Joe Francis founded the pornographic franchise Girls Gone Wild, and Maxim, the best thing to happen to men since women, launched its first issue. By the time journalist Ariel Levy published Female Chauvinist Pigs, critiquing the rise of pornification in 2005, raunch culture had become mainstream culture. As media scholar Susan Douglas observed, young women today have never experienced a media environment that didn't over-exaggerate the centrality of sex and hotness to everyday life. This is the way of the world for them. Indeed, our porn nation encourages consumers to interpret almost anything and everything through a sexist, sexy lens. Burgers, butcher knives, breast milk. See the video MILF by Fergie. Even the Holocaust. In May 2019, raunch culture hit a new low when the student-run Harvard Lampoon magazine published an image of the face of Anne Frank superimposed on the surgically enhanced bikini body of Heidi Montag. The image ran with the text, "Add this to your list of reasons why the Holocaust sucks." News stories criticizing the photoshopped image as deeply offensive flooded mainstream media outlets, and the Lampoon co-presidents and issue editor released a statement apologizing for any harm we caused. I speculate that the students responsible for creating and disseminating the image did not intend to be anti-Semitic. It's possible they were so socialized into raunch culture, they perceived the picture as a compliment. Toxic masculinity. Hegemonic masculinity, more colloquially referred to as toxic masculinity, a set of practices that promote the dominant social position of men and the subordinate social position of women, fuels raunch culture. Toxic masculinity socializes men to use female bodies as currency, to enhance their alpha status among men. In turn, raunch culture reinforces toxic masculinity, especially men's sense of entitlement to women's bodies. For example, among the 67 people I interviewed for this study, Mackenzie, who was white and 19, exclaimed, "It makes me sick to listen to people talk." 6 or 7 times a day, she hears men say things like, "She's hot. I do this and this to her." Mackenzie clarified, "It's not I would love to take her out or get her something to eat. It's an I would love for her to suck my dick kind of thing." She further illustrated, "I had a criminology class last semester. The guy that sat in front of me and one that sat beside him would talk the whole time about a few girls on the other side of the classroom. They thought they were hot and wanted to do stuff to them. I heard one of them say he had a girlfriend and that she wouldn't be happy about it, but it wouldn't matter." Like Mackenzie, Jordan, who was white and 20, observed her guy friends as well as male acquaintances, family members, and strangers casually and continuously sexually objectify women. With words pouring out of her in a fountain of rage, Jordan shared, "I don't know how many times I see people check other girls out. How many times I've caught people looking at me. I can tell that they're checking me out, and it's very uncomfortable. I believe you might look around and think, oh, that person is attractive, or you might think they're pretty, but don't check out their whole body and stare at them. I had this one guy friend, and we did not stay friends long, because anytime we went somewhere, he was always checking out girls and their butts. I'm like, are you serious? Why are you doing this? And he would try to laugh it off and be like, you're just jealous because I'm not doing it to you. And every day he did this. All the time, comparing girls' butts. There's times I'll be out in public. I'll be leaving a restaurant and a guy will hold the door open for me and I'll kind of glance back and I know he did it just to check me out. It's really disrespectful. I'm even more disrespected that they think I'm dumb enough to not realize what they're doing because I look back and I see it. Every day I literally see men objectifying women, even on their way to class, anywhere you walk. Like, it happens all the time. Girls and women negotiate overt sexual objectification of the kind Mackenzie and Jordan described, as well as online misogyny. Angelina said that it is typical for men on the Tinder dating app to rapidly proceed from saying hello to requesting sexy photos. Many send an unsolicited dick pic as encouragement. Angelina, who is white and 20, said that even when she politely refuses to share provocative pictures, many respond with a nasty comment like, "You're too fat to fuck anyway." Such toxic masculinity is visible in individual lives, media entertainment, and the behaviors of those on the national stage. Perhaps you noticed Americans elected a man whose idea of an entertaining weekend is having himself, pedophile financier Jeffrey Epstein, and 28 young women flown to Mar-a-Lago Golf Club. Raunch culture encourages feelings of aggrieved entitlement in some men, while social media provides opportunities for like-minded boys and men to form communities built on misogyny, like the incels. Incel is short for involuntary celibate, describing men who find it difficult to have sex with women because they believe themselves to be unattractive and/or socially awkward. Elliot Rodger, who murdered 6 people in California in 2014, and Alec Manassian, who killed 10 people in Toronto in 2018, both self-identified as incels. Kevin, who is white and 43, directly linked raunch culture with this form of toxic masculinity in his interview, saying, "I think the hypersexuality of raunch culture feeds into hypermasculinity and creates this dangerously potent cocktail of what I should aspire to be, and a level of frustration and self-loathing when I can't obtain these things." Randall, who is white and 29, illustrated this mixture of misogyny and entitlement to women's bodies when describing his high school friend Phil, who, Randall said, only dates super thin women and not fat bitches, no matter that Phil is himself unkempt and pudgy. Origins of raunch culture. During our interview, Valerie observed, "It's raunch culture everywhere, but you don't realize. All of a sudden we're learning there's names for these things and that there was a time that this wasn't. There's always been some sort of sexualization in culture, but it's never been this bad. We just don't realize it." Actually, Valerie is mistaken, but it's not surprising she thinks this, given her experience. There has not always been a sexualization of culture, nor has the U.S. always been a porn nation, although people have dealt with manifestations of patriarchy for approximately 4,000 years. While valuing women for their youth and beauty is long-standing, the idea that women should make themselves sexy for men emerged in the 1920s in the United States. Sociologist Lisa Wade explained that the cultural shift from courtship, taking place in a woman's home under the watchful eyes of her mother with the goal of marriage, to dating, social activities outside the home with a range of partners, favored the buyer. Going out required funds that women lacked, so thus was born the practice of men paying for women's company, since the goal in dating, as opposed to courtship, is to go out with many different people. Women in the 1920s needed to signal their appeal in a new way to men, and they did so by suggesting a degree of sexual availability. Liberation movements of the 1960s and 1970s introduced widespread progressive social change. Among these was the sexual revolution, the relaxation of moralistic attitudes about premarital sex facilitated by the invention of the birth control pill. New reproductive tools allowed women greater sexual freedom. As the decades passed, those invested in women's subordination used the internet, among other means, to co-opt and convert the energy, dynamism and freedom of the sexual revolution into the pale, watered-down, frankly oppressive simulacrum that is raunch culture. Technological developments in the dissemination of pornography aided this sad devolution from liberation to raunch, with new media platforms leading the United States and other Western cultures into greater and greater sexualization. Indeed, raunch culture, as we now experience it, was not possible before the digital revolution. New technologies pushed pornography and sex workers from the fringes of the culture to its center. Finally, raunch culture also marks a media shift from the sexualization of women's bodies as something done almost exclusively to women to an activity also done by women. Messengers of pornification tell consumers that hip women, like Kylie Jenner, for example, appreciate being seen as sex objects because it is good to show off one's sexiness. Media outlets reinforce this by portraying those women who strike pouty poses and say they enjoy showing others how hot they are as the most stylish. Constantly told that this state of affairs is empowering for women, both women and men enforce the rules of raunch. Bonnie's story describing a night out with the girls after a formal dance illustrates this. White, 21, and an ROTC cadet, Bonnie traveled from Kentucky to Central Florida to attend an ROTC military ball in April 2019. After the ball wrapped up, she and her best friend trekked back to their hotel room to change out of their gowns and into club clothes for a night out on the town. Bonnie donned a simple outfit of a pair of jeans and a nice top, to then face a room of girls filled with disapproval. She explained that they perceived the outfit as cute, but not sexy or hot. Even Bonnie's best friend agreed, saying she wouldn't be allowed into the bar crawl area dressed as she was. Bonnie said, "In this situation, I finally understood the societal obligation of being sexy versus presentably attractive, and felt limited to what I could or could not wear." Because she hadn't brought any outfits passing the exacting standards of the mass of girls in the hotel room, Bonnie created an ensemble out of a mishmash of borrowed clothing. Her revised outfit consisted of a lacy low-cut tank top, a black miniskirt, and a pair of high heels. She said, "I felt exposed and stripped of my dignity, and questioned why I was trying to meet cultural guidelines set by the patriarchy. But I felt obligated to abide by their hotness requirement." As the girls left to hit the bars, Bonnie realized, "I wanted to lie to myself and say that I felt empowered because I had the ability to dress sexy and express my sexuality freely, but I felt constrained. Although I do enjoy feeling and looking sexy, I didn't feel good and couldn't feel comfortable with what I was wearing because I wasn't following my own narrative." When Bonnie questioned the others as to why it was necessary to look sexy, she explained that her qualms puzzled them. Bonnie's experience detailed here exactly illustrates what cultural analyst Jacqueline Friedman describes as faux empowerment, as well as illuminates the main lie undergirding raunch culture. When looking sexy is compulsory and controlled by the expectations of others, it is, by definition, oppressive and not empowering. Being liberated is something we do because we want to, when we are following our own narrative, whereas being raunchy is something we perform for others. A condition of inarticulation. As you said raunch culture, I realized, oh wow, this is a name for a thing that is very prevalent in my life, but it didn't have a name before. And not just in my life, but the lives of all the men and women in my generation. All people. So when I think about it, raunch culture is the prevalence of pornographic attitudes and imagery in all public spaces, encroaching into private spaces. Kayla, 28-year-old white woman. Writing and talking about raunch culture is challenging for several reasons. As participants explained, it's what we're used to. the way things are, and our culture. The ubiquity of hypersexualized representations throughout our porn nation normalizes the ideology of raunch and renders it invisible to many. In simpler terms, raunch culture is the water, and we are the fish. When water is everywhere, we don't notice that we are wet. Perhaps we don't even know we are in the water. As Valerie suggested, we simply swim. Take, for example, a photo my graduate assistant snapped for me in August 2016. Someone had hung a Sports Illustrated poster of an almost naked model, posing provocatively at a staircase descending to our university student center. You can see students walking past it, clad in backpacks. Like all student centers, ours is a busy one, hosting staff, administrators, faculty, students, and campus guests during a typical weekday. Did anyone notice it as they rendezvoused in the center for a meeting, or grabbed a bite between classes? Or are we so used to seeing images of almost naked, provocatively posed women that they barely register anymore? If someone did feel uncomfortable with this image, did they say anything about it? If so, besides the language of religious morality, what words might they have used? Americans struggle to find a way to talk about raunch culture because, as I illustrate in the following chapters, we suffer from a condition of inarticulation concerning it. We lack commonplace, customarily used language to name, understand, and critique what we see. Even the term raunch culture is new to most people. If finding words to describe and critique raunch culture is challenging, speech that supports it springs easily to mind. As I noted earlier, pornification sells itself to consumers using the deceptive narrative of female empowerment. This wily frame positions those who critique sexualization as trying to police women's bodies and control women's sexuality. In my experience, when I teach and lecture on raunch culture, some women say, "I like dressing up and looking sexy. Are you telling me I am bad?" Some men say, "The ladies choose what they wear, and I like seeing boobs." I respond by comparing raunch culture to the forest and individual decisions to the hiker. It is not up to me to decide how any person finds their way through the forest of raunch. Maybe stripper heels, the gold standard of raunch, are the best shoes on certain terrains. At the same time, the fact that some individuals sometimes enjoy wearing stripper shoes does not make raunch culture empowering for women. The complication here is that critiques of hypersexualization are structural, while arguments that women can dress sexy if they want to are singular. And both perspectives are valid. Raunch culture is sexist, and women should get to pick what they wear. Most people lack the skill and experience to effectively explain this to others. This makes raunch, as Melinda, who is white and 20, said, a really touchy subject. She elaborated, "I don't partake in it myself usually, but I see a lot of it going on. I think there can be too much of it. But I don't judge people as lesser because they participate in it." Those who are unhappy with raunch culture, like Melinda, face a double bind. She said, "I'm torn between women should not be sexualized and they should be able to look any way they want to. It makes me seem like I'm contradicting myself. But it's hard not to. Women can do it, but raunch culture shouldn't happen." Melinda is playing a rigged game. She admitted she has a big problem with raunch culture, but also does not want to slut-shame women. Further, when she has critiqued the sexualization of culture, others called her judgmental, and this response made her cautious about sharing her ideas in the future. Finally, even if one brilliantly differentiates structural forces from individual choices while heroically managing not to trigger anyone, listeners still may not understand the distinction, especially U.S. citizens who are deeply socialized into individualism, or their eyes may glaze over before the end of the clarification. As discouraging as this sounds, and while it can be an uphill battle at times, challenging raunch culture is important. Most of the people I interviewed felt relieved, energized, and personally validated talking back to sexist cultural norms.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?